What's good? What's good out there in the world, good people? Let's speak on it for a moment. I feel at least we should. Even things are a little weird right now as far as the live chats and a lot of different things here. Okay, I had to do a pop-out chat. All right, I see it. There you go. Put that here in the corner. What's up, Mr. Hill? I see you. Oh, yes, hit the like button coming through the door, please. There are certain trades that actually ruined teams, and it took them years to recover and come back from. Some still have not found out where they rank or where they should be in these situations. Yeah, it didn't end out well for them. Didn't end up well. So a lot of trades that should have been made. Now let's put that out there too. There's a lot of trades that should have been made that weren't. Yes. Should have been made, but they weren't. They weren't never made for whatever the purpose is. It ruined and set teams back. You know, nothing's perfect. Don't forget to hit the like button, good people, for all you guys that are here. A lot of people feel indifferent or they have ideas. Things are more noticeable to certain teams. Like, for instance, people are more noticeable to the fact that, let's say, oh, well, the Pistons didn't draft Carmelo Anthony, and that would set them down the road of losing for years. That I don't think was a bad move for what the Pistons did at that time. I felt the Pistons did the right thing by their company and what they should have done at the time. They actually won the NBA championship that year. I mean, you had two bigs already, plus you had Tayshaun Prince. There was going to be really no room for Melo to grow to be Melo at that time. His starting minutes was going to be very low, and his career was going to play out mostly like Kobe's. For like the first 3 years, he's not really going to be playing that much. And if he wanted that, then, it is what it is, But trying to send notifications out to people because for some weird reason, everybody everybody's kind of like doing some crazy things around here. Oh, somebody's telling me about something. Okay, that's crazy. But anyway, let's look into it. The Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls won 6 NBA championships, right? 6. I remember when they won them. Six NBA championships. Can anybody describe what happened after that? I'm trying to read your chats through here. Oh, Jamil said they lost ever since. Now, here's what else they didn't mention, Jamil. And I want to let it be known right now. Here's what they didn't mention. What they didn't mention is the fact that the Chicago Bulls had 2 first-round draft picks in 1999. And they took Ron Artest and they took Elton Brand with the number 1 pick. That's right. Can you believe that? The Chicago Bulls, after winning 6 NBA championships, had the number 1 pick in the draft and selected Elton Brand number 1 from Duke. Then they selected Ron Artest. You had a power forward and you had a small forward. One guy was offensive minded, one guy was defensive minded. The Phoenix Suns did a trade with the Chicago Bulls that led to Ron Artest being the 16th pick going to the Bulls. They got that pick from Phoenix. And do you want to know what happened after that? Don't forget to hit the like button, good people. That's why we're here. I'll be more than happy to inform you what happened after this fact. After this anomaly happened, some things went wrong. The Chicago Bulls got rid of Elton Brand after 2 years. 2 seasons. Your number 1 pick in the draft. You let him go after 2 seasons. Elton Brand was averaging 20 points a game. He was averaging 10 rebounds a game. He went to the Clippers, where he averaged about 20 and 12 almost his entire career playing for the Clippers. Had you kept that team, because after that, they ended up getting Brad Miller and Jamal Crawford. The Chicago Bulls had the biggest whip in the world. They had Jamal Crawford and Brad Miller. Brad Miller was outstanding center. Great awareness, rebounding, tough. And what people started to see was that this is not your average Chicago Bulls. this team could actually be pretty damn good. So that last year, they had Brad Miller, Elton Brand, Jamal Crawford. Who else did they have? I think they had Marcus Fizer on the team or something like that. But they didn't have any real guards. They had Jamal Crawford running the point, but he was more of a two. And he was trying to find his place. His game was spectacular. They just didn't know how to play with him. But you had junkyard dogs every night. Brand, and Ron Artest and Brad Miller. These dudes was coming up. So what does the Bulls do? They fired the coach, Tim Floyd. Jerry Cross is going to step down. They're going through a whole regime change as they get rid of Ron Artest. I mean, not Ron Artest, but Elton Brand. They keep Ron Artest, and they draft Eddie Curry. Straight out of high school. You draft 2 7-footers, Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry. And your big anchors is still Brad Miller and man of world peace known as Ron Artest. Now, we're going to see how this derailed the entire team. Now, Cartwright has got full runnings of the team, right? So now that the coach is now going to be Bill Cartwright, who's a center. Now, when you get 2 7-footers in the draft, you kind of don't need Brad Miller no more, right? He becomes expendable. Isaiah Thomas becomes coach of the Indiana Pacers. He see how stupid the Chicago Bulls are with their players and said, let me see what I can do here. I can make some moves. He did a trade, gave the Chicago Bulls Jalen Rose, said, y'all can have Jalen Rose. And in exchange, they got Ron Artest and Brad Miller from the Chicago Bulls. Y'all got rid of Brad Miller for Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler. Now, let's go over this as to why this happened. Eddie Curry was selected out of high school because the Bulls' ticket prices for season tickets were, people didn't care. No Michael Jordan, we're out. Now, they tried to hold on for about 2 seasons. Now you've been losing for about 3. They kind of convinced Michael ain't coming back. So now they're giving up their tickets. They were holding them for a while. Then they start doing all these promotions. So they need to get their Chicago-based audience back and get them in there watching the games so they can sell them merchandise. This is why the Bulls is the kings of merchandising and they top sales every year because they know how to sell Jordan and all that memorabilia. If you go into the Bulls Stadium, they ain't never got a shortage. If you go and buy it directly from the stadium, if you go in there and get a ticket. Now, there's ways to get in there for free, but at that time when they was losing, we would just pop in at halftime. It was anything we wanted to do. They didn't care as long as we was inside. But here's the kicker. They needed a Chicago guy. And Eddie Curry is like in the suburb. like went to like Harvey, or he went to what's that, Rose Ridgewood or whatever. My cousin went there, played football. He went there. That's like ghetto suburb of Chicago. Eddie Curry went there, played high school ball. Now he playing on the Bulls, so people gonna go to the games to see him, right? Where did we see this before? Derrick Rose, right? Okay, but this is the first experiment, right? So the first experiment was Eddie Curry. The coaches all said when they went to interview him, not mature enough. He got some talent there, needs to work harder, not mature enough. Probably needs to go to college. So if you get this guy, you're going to have a 2-year experiment. So what they said was, okay, we're going to experiment with Eddie Curry, but we're going to have another 7-footer and Tyson Chandler that's going to play. This experiment backfired. Because of their inexperience and out there, they're wasting the years of Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford is like miserable playing on the Chicago Bulls team because he has nobody to really play off of or play with. They brought in Jay Williams. They drafted him out of Duke. He thought he was the biggest thing in the world, and his career didn't last long. He got in a motorcycle accident after he was told he couldn't ride motorcycles. He rode one anyway, tore himself up, and they went downhill anyway, but he was not going to make it in the pros anyway. So the accident, changed his life and everything, but now he's found himself in broadcasting. I think that's best for him. And he was one of the best collegiate players, at Duke. He was incredible. Well, the very next year, teams started to make moves and changes started. But this was the start of the demise for the Chicago Bulls. That one trade, getting rid of them, just started disrailing the entire team. Now, the Eddie Curry failed experiment set up the one that did pay off, which was Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was the guy. He was the one. Everybody was scared and thought they should take Beasley. I thought they should take Beasley. I'm like, look, y'all took somebody before from the hometown, didn't work out. You shouldn't probably draft in your hometown. But after they saw it work when LeBron came in, they said, okay, we can make this work and get this thing done. And it paid off, marketing and everything. Derrick lived up to it, and he was the goods. Nobody ever thought Beasley was better than him ever again. Now let's talk about the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz, right now they're the number one team in the league. But let's look at the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz is known for not really firing too many coaches. They've held a coach for a very long time, which was their man, Jerry Sloan. Jerry Sloan was there forever, and he was that guy. But let's take a look at what doomed the Utah Jazz. Now, what if I told you the Utah Jazz, back when they were when they were slated to be a team that was washed up or just nobody was paying any attention to. What if I tell you that in 1994-95 season, everybody was focused on the Houston Rockets, right? The Houston Rockets just came out of nowhere and beat them in the first round and shocked the world. What if I told you that the Utah Jazz had won 60 games that year? They came together and gelled out of nowhere and blew everybody away and won 60 games. But they lost when it came down to it in the playoffs in the first round. Do you want to know why they lost in the first round to the Houston Rockets? Because they had a backup center named James Donaldson. They had Jeff Hornacek, who couldn't score and couldn't match up with Sam Cassell and the rest of those guys. Stockton at that time was being outmatched defensively. He was being fatigued because he had to keep up with those guys, and those guards were really starting to take its toll. Now, Blue Edwards was out there doing his thing. Blue! And they've always kept good counterparts. Their problem is they kept players a bit too long. And that they so faithful, they're not willing to pull the trigger. And when you're not willing to pull the trigger, it could cost you. Now, I've never been a fan of guys making excuses, right? Byron Russell came into the picture. So Jeff Malone, it used to be Jeff Malone and Karl Malone. Jeff Malone was out after the year prior, and then they went with Byron Russell. Byron Russell came, and that was it. But Stephen Howard from DePaul played on that team. And I felt he did tremendous, and they should have went and made the trade. And this is what a lot of people didn't know. The Houston Rockets had a trade on the table where they could have gotten Robert Horry. The Utah Jazz could have done a trade that would have brought Robert Horry to their team in the 1994-95 season. They chose not to do that trade. And because they didn't do that trade, they ended up getting beat by Robert Horry and the Houston Rockets. How many of you didn't know that? Well, Robert Horry was having all kind of problems. Robert Horry was having a lot of problems because disciplinary. Once he threw the towel in Danny Ainge's face, he was removed from Phoenix, period. They got him out of there. And what they did was give him to a team that you never give him away in your division or your conference. When that guy could put you right out of the playoffs. And that's what happened. Robert Horry, all those guys, they had shooters. And they end up putting them out too. So Ori got his revenge. 7 NBA championships. Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Utah waited too late. They won 60 games, but they could have had someone that could close the games for them when they needed it down the stretch, and Robert Horry would have been that had they went ahead and made that decision. I mean, it's been a lot of there's been a lot of trades that have derailed teams and put them on a losing pattern for a very long time. And I think, let me see, what was a bad trade that really did a team in? Oh, man. The Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks. That was probably the worst trade ever. Getting rid of Ray Allen, and who else did they lose? They were on the cusp to do something really great, and it ruined them. What's up, Clem? The Alonzo Mourning trade. That was more of a personal thing with LJ. They were putting all their stock into having LJ be the man. As I went through that, the beef between Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning, and it kind of played out how Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose situation was. It wasn't they had like a beef. Derrick Rose and Jimmy never really had a beef. It was more of a difference in how they go about preparing for a game. Jimmy Butler was, different. He had to grind to get to where he was. Derrick came right out, number 2 pick in the draft, and he didn't have the discipline of an NBA player, and just like Larry Johnson, people have to, Derrick, he didn't have a diet. He eat McDonald's, eat some candy bars, drink a soda. It's just eventually that's going to take a toll on your body. When you're playing basketball, your body's going to crash at times you need it to perform. So Jimmy Butler was trying to incorporate him, working on his body so he wouldn't have so many injuries. And this is what he felt led to a lot of, Derrick Rose's injuries. But Derrick Rose is like, when you win MVP or you can be, when you the main guy of a team, then you could talk to me. So that's what the difference is. And, as far as them having that back and forth. But losing Ray Allen at that time back in 2001, 2002, when they were like one of the best true trio they had with Sam Cassell, Ray Allen, and Big Dog. That team right there was a quiet big three. The worst deal for Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets. I wouldn't say it hindered a lot of process for them, but they were a growing team. They were trying to get a fan base. So by them, it was a business move, knowing that hey, we ain't finna win any games, but we got some names that people are gonna want to come see. So the trade actually for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce was actually more to it helped structure Boston. That trade helped Boston become the new Boston you see right now today, because that set them up with the draft picks and everything. See, they traded Sean Williams, a 2000 first round draft pick that ended up going to Portland, all because of this deal. And I'm gonna show you how it all happened. Brooklyn then sent Wallace, Bogans, Chris Humphreys was involved, I believe, and first round draft picks for Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry, and DJ White. The Boston Celtics got 3 first round draft picks. Now, here's the thing. That 2012 first round draft pick that ended up having to go to Portland, guess who that player ended up being, ladies and gentlemen? Dame time. So Dame Lillard would have been a Brooklyn Net. Would have changed a lot, wouldn't it? It would have changed a lot, wouldn't it? It would have changed the perspectives a lot. Well, the worst trade ever Milwaukee ever did was trading away, giving away Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to the Lakers. That was the dumbest trade ever, but I guess he was just ready to leave. And once they won a championship or whatever, and they did that deal, that was just horrifying. Well, it built the Lakers franchise. In the Dr. Bus era, when Dr. Bus took over the team, he made it showtime. Remember when Charles Barkley wanted to leave Philly? And they were tired of Charles, just half-heartedly playing, coming in out of shape, complaining. So they decided to trade him. And he went to the Phoenix Suns to the West. The Players Union was responsible for help setting that up, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, too. Right, we should be well over 100 likes by now. And if you're new here, subscribe to the page. Cavs trading Kevin Johnson and Ron Harper. Well, Ron at that time, to send him to to Los Angeles. At that time, I could see sending Ron Harper there. They tried it out. Ron had too many knee injuries. They didn't know he's going to be able to keep bouncing back, so. Yeah. But no, they sent Jeff Hornacek. It was Tim Perry and Andrew Lane. They all went over to they left the Suns and ended up going to the Sixers for them to get Charles Barkley. Like I said, the NBA Players Association and Player Union wanted to help Philadelphia do that trade because they needed someone in the West to challenge Michael Jordan and the Bulls in the NBA Finals. Somebody with a personality, and Magic Johnson, that came and went. And they went and put Jordan against Drexler, but there's no other personality that they could put him up against. And Charles was so great in the Dream Team. When they did to Barcelona, he was probably the best player. He was loud. He did all the best press conferences. The NBA came up with the idea of we got to move Charles to the West. So his agent knew that they were going to move him to the Phoenix Suns and try to get the things done. And, Charles was deliberately told to do things to where they would want to trade him. And so the people in Philly wouldn't be so mad at the organization for letting Charles Barkley go. People was like, yeah, Barkley did this. He got drunk the other night and he yelled at them and he was trying to make it so they would just go ahead and trade him and pull the trigger. And as the owners and everybody else, the general managers and people were influencing it, it got done for him to go to the team they wanted, which was Phoenix. Phoenix was set. Charles worked out all year, got in shape, and he went out and had an MVP year. But what this did for Philly was absolutely nothing. Jeff Hornacek, people only remember Jeff Hornacek for playing with the Utah Jazz. Jeff Hornacek played for like 6 years, I think, in Philly as they descended into like the lottery for like half a decade, man. That's pretty interesting, my brother. I never thought of it that way. He become one of the worst coaches in the NBA. Worse than Vinny Del Negro? Oh no, it gets even more interesting. We're not even close to being done. Wait till you hear this trade. Now, the Los Angeles Clippers, right? They are sick of the Baron Davis. So, Baron Davis, they want to get rid of him. Baron Davis was almost a member of the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls was going to get Baron Davis. Baron Davis is from California. And basically, he was going to resign and all this stuff and stay there. And then Elton Brand ended up bailing on the team. And he was like, look, I came here to play with you. You the one taught me to come here, and then you going to up and leave. That was the craziest thing ever. You recruited me. I came here, then you up and left, and then I've been stuck here. So Baron Davis is like, man, look, I was cool over in Golden State. So now it was like, you just really got me over here. So they was going to trade him to the Chicago Bulls. I forgot the player and the terms, but he was going to be a Chicago Bull. His agent had told him, look, they finna trade you to the Chicago Bulls. Then they changed their mind at like the last minute and ended up trading. They ended up trading him and a first-round draft pick to Cleveland so that they can get Mo Williams and Jamario Moon. They was like, we can get Mo Williams that been playing with LeBron James and Jamario Moon. See, the Clippers was so willing to get rid of Baron Davis. They gave up a first rounder to Cleveland as a tax. Because they had just got DeAndre Jordan. They just got Blake Griffin. They had Eric Gordon. They did not need Baron Davis as they was finna become Lob City. So that's why they didn't want Baron Davis no more, and they were looking to get rid of him. But what did that first round pick turn out to be for Cleveland? That Cleveland first round draft pick that they got from the Clippers turned out to be who? Kyrie Irving. That's right. Flat Earth, baby. Kyrie Irving. That's who they got with the pick. They drafted Kyrie. So you see how trades can mess you up? The Clippers would have had Kyrie Irving, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan on their team. Young, ready to go. And you would have had Jamario Moon and Mo Williams. And you had Eric Gordon on your team. Somebody said T-Mac to the Orlando Magic. Once again, T-Mac was going to go to the Chicago Bulls. Like, that deal was done. That cake was baked. But at the last minute, word had gotten back about how bad the organization actually was. After they had all these great conversations with McGrady, by people telling them how bad Chicago was and that you might not want to go play there. This made them feel a certain way. T-Mac was like, wait a minute, I might have to rethink this. This don't seem too good. It did at first, but now I kind of don't. So let me weigh my options a little bit. So that's what he started to do. Said, I'm going to weigh my options. And then the Orlando deal came up, and it was a sweetheart deal. So they went ahead and pulled the trigger on that one. Matter of fact, that kind of worked out. It wasn't like he was mad at Vince to a degree. It's just that he was in the shadow of Vince. You know, they couldn't coexist. That wasn't going to work. You know, you got two A-lister players. Who was going to sacrifice their game? Vince is Air Canada. You know, as great as T-Mac was, he was never going to be recognized as long as Vince was there. Yes, sir. The world is changing. The world is changing. I mean, it's not an exact science. You know, you never know who's going to turn into what. But some trades people know are bad from the jump. I mean, seriously, they know they're bad from the inception. A lot of people don't realize that when y'all brought up Vince and T-Mac going to Orlando, how about the fact that Vince Carter was a Golden State Warrior? Y'all didn't realize that Vinsanity was drafted by the Golden State Warriors. And they traded him to the Toronto Raptors. A lot of people forget about that. I don't know why, but they do. I actually won that in the trivia. Somebody thought I was stupid and drunk. Yeah, this dude's stupid. Air Canada's stupid. I'm like, I bet you. If you want to bet, I'll bet you. Needless to say, they lost. Because Vince was traded. Oh, it's my barber. So anyhow, like I was saying, I had to wait till the charge kicked back in. But yeah, this is what we mean, when we say, oh, like this is something you should probably look at or check into. Yeah, that Vince trade to Golden State. Oh, look at that. Family. He's about the Timberwolves drafting 2 players over Steph. That's just a bad move. That ain't a bad trade. But yeah, that's a very bad decision. Drafted 2 players. But then a lot of players didn't, like, unless you scouted Steph, you weren't really, like, the Knicks was going to draft him, and they pretty much saying that was their guy. The Timberwolves weren't really looking into Steph Curry. A lot of teams weren't. Well, you got to look at it. They decided to trade Vince Carter to the Toronto Raptors on the draft day for cash and Antoine Jameson. They thought Antoine Jameson was going to be the better player. And Vince Sanity was Rookie of the Year. Jameson ended up being a role player, but definitely that was a bad decision. Well, a lot of people look at OKC Thunder and the James Harden trade. I don't think that was a bad trade. It was at that time, keeping 3 superstars and keeping James Harden on the bench. Now they realize, okay, we could play all 3 at the same time. Back then, they would have had to put one of them on the bench. And you're going to continuously have James come off the bench making $100-something million? Wasn't going to happen. But they tried to keep all 3, at least for another run. And what happened? Russ goes down in the middle of the playoffs. And then it was Kevin Durant by himself. So James would have pretty much helped out. And he never chose Houston. He was, traded there. Mm-hmm. I agree. Nobody had more lives than Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson is probably the worst trades ever. This guy kept getting traded, man. Joe Johnson, he was like in every trade. So it's like, which one was a bad trade for Joe Johnson? I'm like, why do people keep trading for Joe Johnson? He showed you this is it. This is all he gonna be. People's like, man, it's got to be something left in him. It's got to be. It's like the Rudy Gay syndrome. Rudy Gay keeps getting injured. He comes back. Like I'm happy that he's actually playing a lot better now. He's looking better now than he did a couple of years ago. Now, but okay, let's go back to 2002. It was the Celtics, right? And they had Paul and Antoine Walker. So they front line and bench needed work. And they had a rookie, Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson is who they should have kept. Had the Boston Celtics kept Joe Johnson, and he was a rookie, right? A young rookie shooting guard. They wanted some points right away. They got Rodney Rogers, Tony Delk, and the Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference Finals that year. They had one of the best surprise seasons ever that they had in a long time. But you gave up Joe Johnson as a rookie. And he went on to average about 20 points a game for about the next 7 years, made it to the All-Star game. He was what they needed down the stretch. That was very key, ladies and gentlemen. Very key. When the Royals traded Oscar Robertson to the Milwaukee Bucks, yeah, that was a bad idea. Very bad idea. No one should ever think about trading Oscar Robertson, arguably the second greatest basketball player ever to play. I can't be mad at Scott, like the Seattle Supersonics trading Scottie Pippen to the Bulls. They didn't know. And in years, I mean, who knew what Scottie Pippen was going to become, right? At that time, he was just tall, talented, had some potential, rather, just raw talent, potential, but mentally wasn't strong enough. It took some developing under Michael and all this, but when Michael was gone, he was imploding. The Bulls was going to trade him back to Seattle for Shawn Kemp. So there you go. Well, if we look at that, I say what was worse is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were trading James Worthy to the Los Angeles Lakers in 1980. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Lakers made a trade that looked like it wasn't gonna mean anything. The Cavs had took Butch Lee and what was that? And a 1982 first round pick from the Lakers. for Don Ford and a 1980 first rounder. Now, people didn't think about that deal until 1982. That that pick that the Lakers received from that stupid trade for Butch Lee and Don Ford, two people they sound like wrestlers. Butch Lee and Don Ford. Butch Lee and Don Ford. And that first round draft pick ended up being James Worthy, a 6'9" forward from North Carolina. That's what that pick ended up being. Who would have thought that 1980 trade would lead to that trade being that massive in 1982, and they got big game James Worthy. That had to be the most terrible deal ever done. Oh man, that was a great deal. You talking about Glenn Rice for Eddie Jones and Eldon Campbell? That was a great deal. Glenn Rice at that time had no knees. Glenn Rice was just a swing player at that time. He was done. This wasn't the old Charlotte Glenn Rice. Like, it's some bad trades that you would think is bad trades that really wasn't bad trades. At the time, you didn't know what it was going to be. So you just didn't know. You had how could I say this, for instance? Vince Carter and Toronto Raptors when they traded him to the New Jersey Nets, right? I wouldn't say that's a bad trade. At that time, Vince was injured every year. It was like he was done, and he wanted out of Toronto. And it was like, how many times we gonna keep going down the well? It's been here 7 years, and now he's starting to get hurt every year. So, something that doomed the Bay Area is when Tim was coming back. He was having some problems with his knee. He had missed some games. I think he had came back. Tim Hardaway ended up getting in a surprise move after missing the entire 93 season. The Golden State Warriors just thought this is it for him. He came back and he didn't have the same explosion. His numbers went down, and the Warriors decided, well, we got to trade him in the middle of the damn season. And what was that, 95? And they traded him to the Miami Heat for Bimbo Coles and Kevin Willis. Now, I felt that was so disrespectful at the time. But they were like, let's get something from him for everybody to see and notice that it ain't nothing. They gave up on him. And this is somebody who basically built the popularity back up and run TMC, and to be dealt out like that. Like he was a thief in the night for Bimbo Coles and Kevin Willis. They thought Bimbo Coles and Kevin Willis was going to be the future. Coles was just what he was. He was a backup game game manager. He wasn't no difference maker. Oh, Kevin Willis is gone after he played 28 games, and they ended up releasing Kevin Willis. I mean, he was done. But to do that at that point in that stage, I just didn't think that was a good idea. Um, oh, how about the Milwaukee Bucks and Dirk Nowitzki? The Milwaukee Bucks traded Dirk. Pat Garrity and Dirk Nowitzki, who they had picked with the 19th pick, they traded them to Dallas for Robert Tractor Taylor, rest in peace, Tractor. And that was crazy. The Bucks wanted Tractor Trailer from Michigan. And we all know what Dirk did. So the Dirk for Tractor Trailer. We gotta have Tractor Trailer. That's a hell of a name. Robert the Tractor Trailer. He moved just as slow as a tractor, too. Yeah, that was bad. It was bad. Having Tractor Trailer there, doing all that was bad. You said Kwame Brown was traded for Pau Gasol. Yeah, I mean, these are some bad deals, man. I mean, Dirk won in that. I mean, Dirk, Hall of Fame, NBA championship for Dallas. Washington Wizards. Like I said, I can't get mad at the Wizards for getting rid of Chris Webber. Chris Webber should have never been traded from the Golden State Warriors, but he wanted to leave. So that was a whole thing like they just gave up on Chris Webber after getting Rookie of the Year. He wanted out. He didn't want to play there. So they had Juwan Howard and they had Chris Webber. Webber kept getting hurt. Webber blew his knee out, and they thought Chris Webber is going to be done. He's just going to be a role player. And we got Ben Wallace, and now we got Juwan Howard. A lot of people forget that Washington, they were the Bullets, and they had Ben Wallace then. But they decided to make a big deal to get themselves a chance. So they made a chance to trade him to the Sacramento Kings, where they got Otis Thorpe and Mitch Richman. Mitch was like 7 consecutive All-Star teams, averaging about 24 points a game. He was, Golden State made a big deal getting rid of Mitch Richman. I've stated that a long time ago. So Mitch had that huge contract. He was just there to get the rest of his money before it was time for him to leave. Jordan ended up coming over there, getting ownership, and Mitch, they ended up having to get Mitch out of there. So that's what happened over there with Washington when they became the Wizards and everything. But Webb took a team, the Sacramento Kings, mixed with Bibby. They had the right cast of misfits and turned that into a winning franchise. Everywhere he went, Chris Webber, he's the Jimmy Butler of the NBA. Everywhere they go, they generate success. The Washington Bullets hadn't done anything. They got to the playoffs when they added Chris Webber. Chris went to Sacramento. God awful for years. When he got there, it was a whole new culture. People were expecting them to go to the NBA championship. They never had those expectations over there. Doug Christie, White Chalk, they had everybody over there. They had Vlade. They had all these pieces that was right. Everything told me Aldridge was signing with the Heat 4 days ago when he was getting the buyout that the Miami Heat was going to sign him. That's why they let Kelly Olynyk go. Because Kelly Olynyk hasn't really provided too much this year. They've been on like a 6-game losing streak. Things have not been going well for them. They're losing close games, and they feel like they needed another scorer in there instead of another 3-point shooter. They need somebody to come in there and be able to score. Even though I like Kelly, he stretch it out, but I guess he really hasn't been playing that well. I wouldn't say that. Andre Miller did really good for Philly. I mean, at the point guard position, I wouldn't say that was a bad at the time. I think, like I said, that's not a bad trade. That wasn't a bad trade for them. At that time, it was a move that needed to be made. What would be a bad trade? Wait a minute, the game on? Oh, wait a minute. The game on. I better not lose this damn money on Loyola. All right, we're going to have to end this. Y'all got me thinking about it's halftime. I've been sitting there missing the damn game. I thought it came on. Oh, hell no. Oh, man, we in here talking about trades. Oh, man, I got to go, man. I got to go. Oh, no. My money on the line. Nah, we got to get up out of here. We got to go. We got to go. Goddamn money on the line.